Tuesday, December 17th, Planning Board meeting and Board of Architects for review. I'd like to welcome new member Seth Roy to the board. I'd like to thank Jesus Lopez for his couple of years of service and welcoming Seth now to take over and basically we're at full strength again. So that being said, we'll jump right into the agenda. I think we talked about jumping to Planning Board 20-19, 5 South Malcolm Street. Is that applicant here, or?
I don't think he's arrived yet, Michael, so we're looking.
First, then we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. Sing Sing Prison Museum. Understand it's adjourned until January, Stuart.
Yes, EAC issued their letter, and Mr. Fayel was asked if that could go to January to be on this board's calendar.
Perfect. Next applicant is 7-19 Birchbrook Manor. I see they just kind of walked in, so we'll give them a few minutes, I guess, to... You guys need a few minutes, or?
Keep all right. Good evening. My name is Dan Patrick from Cutting Fader. I'm here with Paul Sysak from JMC, John Fry, the architect, and the applicant, Rajiv Kapoor. Just a very quick background. This is proposed 5 residential townhome unit at the eastern portion of 81-89 South Highland Avenue. We're proposing a subdivision to subdivide 1.12 acres off of that eastern portion and develop the residential units. Since we were last before this board in October, we've been working to address a lot of the comments from the village consultants and other public comments and comments from the board. One thing that was, we have met with the fire department and addressed a few of their comments regarding the circulation of the site, and we've updated the plans to show a 26-foot wide drive aisle and a grass paved emergency access turnaround, which they took a look at and approved with those changes. I'll let Paul go over some of the other revisions to the plans, which include some landscaping, utilities, stormwater, improved buffers for the northern portion of the site, as well as some site distances for entrance and exit of this site. So if I can turn it over to Paul right now, we can.
Sure. Good evening. Paul Sysak, JMC, Planning and Engineering. Just have a site rendering here. Dan, thank you. He had mentioned that we did have a meeting with the fire department. Their main 2 comments were that the access driveway coming into the site was originally shown at 24 feet due to apparatus having to put their stabilizers down. Requirement bumped up to 26 feet. So we were able to accommodate that throughout the whole length of the property. The other comment was for an emergency access road. It was in excess of 150 feet, which is the limiting, the maximum you're allowed. We were without a turnaround, so we were able to meet with them and come up with this option right here, which is a grass paved system that will allow grass to grow through it, but it will have the strength and durability to have H20 loading on that. So we are a little bit over the 150 mark, but the fire department was okay with that. I think we're about 160 or so feet from the end of this turnaround to the dead end. So they were satisfied with that comment. The other comment that we went and looked at and addressed was last meeting we spoke about some trees that were being removed along the neighboring property. I believe it's 78 Walden Road. We went back there. We had a site walk shortly after our meeting. We were able to relook at our grading in this top corner over here, and we pulled in our proposed bioretention area for stormwater purposes in an effort to save those existing mature trees. A lot of the mature trees in this area don't really have too much understory. They're kind of really tall lollipops with not so much understory in the woods. So we looked at some of these. There was 3 that we ended up removing as a result of some of the grading that we had for the installation of this grass pave system. And we did take a close look at those. There was some rotting associated with one of them on our property. We're keeping the one that's just on the property line, that's right there next to the driveway entrance. There was another one that was in fair condition, and then there was another one that was leaning toward the 78 property. So sometimes maybe the best way to approach this is to kind of start fresh. And we wanted to take the opportunity to get rid of that stuff, and then we're planting a pretty dense evergreen border there, 8 to 10 foot tall evergreens. It's a mixture of hollies and green giant arborvitaes. An arborvitae that doesn't have any sort of, it's the most deer resistant variety, and it grows quite quickly. So I think there'll be a pretty decent visual barrier between the neighbor to the north and the property. There's also a couple of deciduous trees that we popped in there for a little bit of a variety. So that was the second item. Another item that we were addressing is the site distance looking out of the property. We did some speed analyses here. We found that people coming down Holbrook, if you're on site looking right to make a left turn out, the average speed was surprisingly 31 miles per hour. And looking left, it was 33 miles per hour, so a little bit closer. We try to be a little bit conservative by choosing 85th percentile speed in an area and then designing for a stopping sight distance accordingly. The stopping sight distance looking right, if you're making a left turn out, is about 201 linear feet. So we did an analysis, and that is why we're proposing a traffic calming system here. We, without some tree removal on neighboring properties, and then also in the village of Briarcliff Manor, we've elected to propose a traffic calming system. I know that it's not in the purview of your board for approval, but we would like to pursue that because it significantly reduces the required sight distance, looking right, making a left turn out of there to, I believe, almost 120 feet down to 80 feet is required. So, there will be also an accompanied 15-mile-per-hour speed limit sign that will be right in front of that speed hump, and it's basically just a 4-inch high mound of asphalt that will be permanent.
So we discussed this briefly in the work session a few minutes back. There's some thinking that because the village is going to look kind of globally at the traffic flow and speed and calming issues around the village, I think, the police department's probably gonna tell us, to hold off, I'm thinking hold off on this actual improvement on a public street till, they determine where, because again, they might not see that this is where most of the complaints are, they might be in other parts of the village, but, we appreciate sort of the offer, and, we'll continue to discuss ways to, slow down traffic and improve visibility and whatnot, but I don't know if we're gonna necessarily put that condition on that, that's gotta get done on the public street, so, but, we'll continue to talk parking and, traffic flow and all those sorts of things.
Sure.
With that in mind, Paul, if you don't have that calming device, you said your sight line, you need about, what was it?
200
feet?
or so feet,
Where,
yeah.
where would that line cross, and you need some vegetation removed, you said?
Yeah, I have another plan I can grab, but basically, when you do the sight distance, you have to really, you're not gonna be creeping up right at the front of where it meets the street. The requirements make you start 15 or 14 feet from the curb, from where you're meeting the existing pavement. So you're starting at a little bit of, a handicap there, so. Then it's about here. It's,
Okay.
What happens is it goes beyond the property boundary, and it also goes into, there's the stream right here, and then on the other side is not our property. And there's existing trees there.
Is that a village parcel, do you know, or is it private?
No, that's the property that we spoke about where people go hiking, and it's where those arches are, those historical looking arches.
Columns there.
Yeah,
Part of the building.
so.
It's actually
I guess
part
the concern is if that traffic calming device doesn't happen, you don't have adequate sight distance to the right, right? So without
what we're
removal of
looking- That's why we're
vegetation.
proposing that,
So if,
traffic calming.
if that didn't happen, you'd need to remove some vegetation. If you do that, obviously you need permission from the neighbor. And then I imagine you'd probably want some kind of site easement or something to make sure that visibility is maintained in perpetuity.
From a maintenance standpoint.
But that's never, that's not a guaranteed thing if we, get approval from them, especially I think we might have to get approval from Briarcliff as well, because some of that site distance goes through.
Did you mention changing the speed on the street to the?
Well, it's a
30
recommended
30 now?
speed, it's a recommended speed, it's a posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour, which is, governed by your municipality, police department, all that stuff, but, someone's not gonna get a ticket if they go over the speed bump at 30, because that's the posted speed limit. The 15 is just a recommended speed. You're not gonna get it, it's not a regulated speed, but it's recommended, because you know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen when
Right,
people.
you're gonna know that
you
speed bump's there, and you're gonna
And that's the
start
last time they're
slowing
gonna
down.
do it, and then
Right.
they'll slow down, so.
So we can kind of mull that a little bit more.
Who makes the ultimate call? Would that be the village manager on a
Well,
traffic calming device?
It's
or-
it's really, it's village manager, DPW, and police. Because that's a village street, so ultimately they're all gonna get involved. DPW would install it, manager would be involved, but certainly the police as well.
And I guess it's a question too of, as we see things coming from our board, if we're gonna be sort of the sole arbiter of it, let's put speed bumps here, let's put speed bumps here on these public streets. I mean, maybe it's better that the village, like Stuart said, the DPW, police department, they look kind of globally at the issue, and they best determine where these speed bumps go, if there's a need.
And it's similar, if this was a state road, and we were we were proposing an improvement off-site to help mitigate something on-site, that would be under the jurisdiction of someone else's approval as well. So it's kind of a similar situation where we would, we would need to get that from the outside.
So kind of backing up, with regard to the planting, I think we also talked about referring the application to the EAC so they can kind of look into plantings and stuff. So there's been talk with the EAC developing sort of a preferred planting list, so that we're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, you guys might propose one type of tree, and they might say, well, that's not kind of the kind of tree we want to see, so we probably refer you to the EAC for, their opinion, and that way you guys can coordinate with them on planting and stuff, so that we're sort of, kind of all on the same page with what
That's
should be
fine, we're
planted.
flexible with taking their recommendation. Is it a recommendation board, or are they a separate
Yeah,
approval?
I think,
They'll make a recommendation to this board.
To this
What we'll try to do, if it's okay with you, is they have a meeting in January before this board. So if they're able to see you in January, they can get a letter back to this board in time for the January meeting of the planning board. So, in terms of scheduling, rather than holding you up another month.
right, and you guys have been the zoning board, so we're all square away with
Right.
variances.
Yeah.
So there's really, I don't see any other reason
No.
there's no other board that's gonna pop up next month, and, we have to go send you over there now too, so.
And their recommendation would hold up any sort of potential vote that you might have tonight for site plan approval.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet for site plan, but,
Okay,
we're getting close.
okay.
Anybody, so I guess I'll open up to the board, anybody have any questions or comments, or?
Not tonight?
I think there's some folks in the audience though, man.
Joe, you're good with, we talked about the traffic, was there any other thing with
Yeah,
engineering?
I don't want it to become an issue for you. You haven't spoken to the neighbors at all, have you? What I'm afraid of is if we get an approval with the assumption that the traffic calming device is going to happen at some point in the future, we don't know when, can we sign and finally approve the plans with that would be a condition of a resolution, wouldn't it, I imagine?
Would have to be.
So that condition is satisfied one way or the other, and if the condition is satisfied by agreeing that the device is needed, then it's done, but if you find out they don't want it for whatever reason,
You have to go to the
then
essential plan.
you've
We
got
did get some
sightline issues
initial
again.
feedback from neighbors that they would like to see some sort of traffic calming done as part of this project.
I think maybe what you're getting at is that if there's a later determination, whether it's the village manager or whoever on the speed bump, if this plan as presented here can only be approved with that traffic calming device, then it probably needs to be a condition. And if they say no, then you have to come back to us and you're gonna have to change the sight lines. So I think maybe that's just sort of like funneling us towards that needs to be a condition of the site plan.
I'm wondering, and it's up to you, it might even be easier to just, if they approach the neighbors and worked out some removal of vegetation, provided that sightline, you know at that point you have it, and you could actually, you could approve the plan without the calming device. It's another option.
Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of probably favor that option over the first one, but I'll keep talking, I guess.
Okay. If it helps, we did mention it to the fire department when we had to sit down with them, and they had no issue with the location or installation of the speed hump. It doesn't affect their firefighting.
Okay, anyone from the public care to talk to this application? Please come up and just mention your name.
Yes, good evening. My name is James Drone, 74A Walden Road. The fire department signed off on this draft?
Jim, we had a meeting with the three chiefs,
Okay.
and there was a representative from the engineer there, I was there, representatives from the other side were there, and they did make some changes based upon the fire department's recommendations with regard to length that they needed, the turnaround that they now put in at the top, which was not there before. So the chiefs haven't seen this particular plan,
Okay.
but the measurements that are on the plan are based upon what the chiefs agreed to.
Because that turnaround, I mean, first of all, I'll give them a lot of credit because it's creative. I mean, I've never seen a turnaround in this village or the town at the beginning of the street. So it might as well just back the fire trucks into the street with the limited sight distance that we have. I can't see the measurements on that, but I believe the tower ladder would have a lot of trouble backing into that. As for the speed hump, I've been in this village a long time. We've tried the speed hump before, when I worked for the Public Works. It was an utter failure. Then we could talk with calming, traffic calming, doubtful. I believe that street hump, that if they do put a speed hump there, it's gonna be nothing but an accident causing. Just because traffic moving very quickly down that road, as I see it every day, they're gonna hit that and they'll probably end up in, I would imagine, the old Zymet's residence. As to speaking with the neighbors, I could tell you that myself and my neighbor in front of me is not gonna be in favor of it. I believe there was a car off the road in the past month in this area. So sight distance is gonna play a major factor. And then just one last thing is, I know we're gonna lose some trees in this, which is gonna be very unfortunate, but I would hope in moving forward with, especially after the village board talking about becoming a tree city, that they don't clear cut it as they did on North Highland Avenue, and it just looks absolutely atrocious. Me personally, I think this plan needs to be scaled back. I understand that it all comes down to money for, the owners of the property. 3,000 square foot unit homes are not designed for retirement folks. It's more designed towards younger families. And I'm not a fan of this project at this point.
Fair enough.
And so the last meeting I was at, I had asked 5 questions. I was wondering when I would get answers to those.
Well, I think the plan's evolved.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard, the engineer from the applicant walked us through different things. Tonight we referred the plan to the EAC to look at, tree planting to get in sync with what, at least to tell the applicant what the village wants to see planted there.
Right.
You're certainly welcome to keep input.
Oh, absolutely.
The EAC meeting's open to the public, go to that, speak, if you feel you need to speak there. Our engineer's still reviewing the plans, so
Okay.
that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, the more I look at the turnaround out, like I said, I think it's very creative. I give them a lot of credit. But I just don't see it working for fire trucks. Maybe ambulances, maybe for their own cars. I mean, even if you go down and you look at 3 Westerly, there's an easement alongside the building so the ladder could hit those corners. But there's always cars parked there. And I believe that that is what is gonna happen there. Because once this project's done, and once they get the sign off and they go forward, you know, they don't care. They're gonna, you know, people are gonna park there. They're not gonna know who the people are. Maybe they're gonna collect their money every month, but they're not gonna truly know who they are. They're not gonna lease their own property, because they don't do that with where they are now. And unfortunately, in my experience.
Let me just kind
Go ahead.
of put you on hold there. I don't want to cast aspersions on the owner.
No, that's fine.
You know, you have an opinion, I respect that. You have voiced how you feel.
Mhm.
So let's see how this thing keeps evolving. And, you know, again, you're welcome to attend the EAC meetings, and we'll be meeting here in January, so.
Thank you.
I think we'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Anyone else here care to speak to this application? Okay, that's,
Michael, what I would suggest, since we now have plans which do have the turnaround, is we did get the fire department's input, but I think we will send them to the chiefs just to make sure that this is consistent with what were our discussions back in November.
Right, again, they've expanded the radius access, and they've
Right.
also put down that stamped
Correct.
Pavers.
area paver that will allow some, you know, weight and more
Correct.
turning radius.
And Paul, the chief gave you the dimensions of their apparatus?
Yeah, we
Right,
did
you
a
have
truck
that?
turning template,
Right,
actually,
okay,
it's
so-
the
so I
detail.
don't know if you wanna show that.
It's actually, it dimensions 70 feet from the edge of the here to the back, and it's 20 feet wide, so
Right.
it does accommodate.
Show us the truck.
Yeah, I have it in the back, but it's more for, so that they don't have to back into the road.
Right.
That's why we came
Right,
down. That
that's
was
what
their
they
major
wanted.
concern,
Right.
was that they wanted to back up, they wanted to be able to turn around before they left the site.
And in addition to this, also, the buildings will be sprinkled, right? You know, the sprinkler system in the building, you know, fire suppression.
Yeah, we're still working on out the requirements for that, but
I'll take that as a
it
yes.
could be.
Technically, they do not have to be, but in the discussion during the meeting with the fire department, the inclination is that we would likely include those. So, that's a long way of saying there is no yes or no yet, but it's a valid consideration.
All right, I think with all that said, then we'll adjourn until next month.
And hopefully by then I'll also have comments from the EAC with regard to the
Perfect.
plantings.
Okay. So if the applicant's consent, we'll adjourn till next month.
Okay, and who do we coordinate to get onto the EAC agenda?
If you contact Jamie Kane, the
Okay,
planning
sure.
department, their meeting will be the first Tuesday in January. And what we'll do is we'll send them the pages of the plan that specifically have all the planting information and the tree information, so they can come back and they'll
So there'll be no separate application, will you?
no need for a
provide
separate
that?
application, it'll just go to them so they can make their comments. But you're welcome to come, so, because they're a very active board.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you. Let's run back to BAR, I guess, is applicant 20-19, 5 South Malcolm.
Mr. Rowan, you here?
Yes.
Good.
Floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Louis Roan. I'm the architect for 5 South Malcolm. We're here tonight to talk about some existing conditions that didn't exactly match the plans that were submitted and previously approved. The windows, as they're installed, are a little bit different than what was approved. The configuration, they slid around, the sizes are basically the same, but they reconfigured the inside of their house a little bit. The bedrooms and the bathrooms kind of moved a little bit, which those drawings have been submitted, and that's what you have in front of you. And they changed the porch, instead of exiting out the side, it's basically exiting out the front, making the front door kind of like this. This is the front versus the side.
So first things first, this is in a T-zone. Is this a two-family, or is this a
It's
single-family?
a single family. It's a single family house right
And
now.
it will remain a single family?
My understanding is it will remain a single family house. As a matter of fact, they removed the exterior stair to the upstairs as part of the previous permit, and we're not.
So this is pretty much built. So I guess I'll open up to the board, comments, questions,
I mean,
sort of whatever.
it was something that was approved previously with different,
Now it's pretty much complete, right? It's, job's pretty much done now.
The interior is framed, it's not sheetrocked.
Okay.
You know, they had a stop work order based upon the differences.
And there's no history of, this isn't like some of the others, like the one on Matilda, where there's a long history of.
No, it's, although it shares the same number, it's not the same.
Yeah, five kind of rings,
Five, right.
Yeah.
rings a bell.
No, but it's before you for a BAR, because it's exterior work that was done, and work to the roof.
Bobby?
what's the siding, is it hardy?
It's a hardy board.
So what change was the window location?
The window locations
and
the front porch stairs. That's
Those were the
basic.
only change.
That's correct.
So no shutters are going on this, no,
Not according to what I was told or what I've drawn.
Can you give me an idea what changed, where?
The front windows stayed exactly the same.
Okay,
These four are basically evenly spaced. They weren't evenly spaced before. There were two several closer, with one kind of in the middle and another one over here.
okay.
Because the interior, the bathroom shifted from this corner to the middle. So they redid the windows to allow the light to come into the space better, according to their opinion. And that's, you know, the same idea, you know, the downstairs, the kitchen was in one spot, now it kind of grew, and they moved the windows around. The sizes are basically what we called for initially. The egress windows are still egress windows for the bedrooms and all that kind of goodness.
Okay.
So
what's the color of the shingle?
It's like a Wedgewood, right?
it's like, yeah, that's a very good description. It's like a Wedgewood blue with white trim.
It's a great color. I just did a house in Wedgewood.
They're gonna have to peel the tape off the AZAC.
Yes. When they got the stop work order, they stopped. I mean, there's areas that are, you can probably see them in the photos, that don't have siding on them. They just walked away because they didn't want to get into any deeper.
Anyone else have questions, or? Okay. Anyone here from the public to talk to this application? Okay. That said, let's need a motion to approve the existing conditions.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Bobby, Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Moving along, we got
I'll take it.
8-19, 65 Main Street.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
We're not doing bar on this, just like,
I believe it was just
because it says bar.
no, 12. Yeah, 12. Yeah, these are all the same.
JB, the floor is yours. You want to, which one would you like to open up?
65 May?
Yeah, this
65 Main.
Yeah,
One.
do you have the other one?
Well, this is yours, this is yours.
Oh, okay.
So you want 1217 or 1126?
Also,
Oh, here it is.
So just run us through what revisions, I guess, happened since
Well-
last month.
Mostly the revision we have dealt with, we have tried to start working with some of the finishes. And mostly we went in front of the environmental board, so we did address some of the issues they had. If we can move to this, the next. There was a question, there was a question about the slope of the
of the existing rent is an average of 10%. It starts at about 15% at the beginning. We're gonna bring that to an average of 10%. So there is an existing broken asphalt that we're gonna maintain and keep at the grade level. So the lower level, where we're converting now into new parking area. Also, and we have, as Stuart mentioned before, we have sent correspondence to go from the village board to designate those parking spaces in front of the building as accessible, since given the existing location of the parking area, the location of the street and the location of the main entrance, we think that the best location for ADA accessibility is right in front of the building. And so this is street parking, that's what we are requesting right now. The next, yeah.
Want to go ahead?
Yeah. This reflects some of the changes we talked about with the environmental board. We added some landscaping. We took into account some of the landscaping that surrounding the entrances from the sidewalk. In this, again, we going along with the use and the planting that Wichita County recommends. This also, there was a question before, we showed that before you get to the canopy or patio that we have, the overhang that we have, that we allow, there's room to have two engines pull in case of emergency, two emergency vehicles.
Has fire seen this though? Your driveway is steeper than the code allows for fire apparatus.
Right, that's what we were talking about with them, to make the, right now, like I said, at the beginning it's a 15%, then it's like 6 or 7%, so we're gonna make it an even 10%. We haven't got a feedback from them.
So this would get referred to, just the fire department for their,
The chief's input.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I believe there is, seen this to her, or they?
I don't think they
There's quite
did
a bit
on
of
this one.
engineering we need yet done,
I don't think the chiefs have seen this one yet.
Okay.
not that I know of.
No.
And this is kind of the layout. The layout is kind of the same. Last time that you guys saw this, the only thing I think we have is that we have dedicated now, one of the units is going to be handicap accessible, so we don't need, we don't have to deal with elevator for the other unit, so.
Jim, where's the elevator gonna be, off the back of the building?
I'm sorry?
Where's the elevator core,
There's-
where's the,
There's no.
there is no elevator?
No. This is, all the units are accessible from the sidewalk. And the only accessibility is, again, you have accessibility to the restaurant from the sidewalk and from the downstairs, there is a set of stairs going up. Internal stairs. This is the same plans that you guys have reviewed before. And then we go into, if you continue.
Sure.
Those are the 3Ds, black and white, and we have some colors. We have better renderings so we can, the computer does not do. So we have some 11:17 rendering that does better with the color.
Jamie, what material are you gonna use on the exterior?
It's gonna be Hardy plank,
Okay.
yeah. And we have some sample for the Hardy plank.
Do we ever check the square footage on that one unit that was listed on the, I forgot which page and which document was listed as 690 square feet and seemed so much smaller than all the other units? Did we double check?
It is a 600.
It is, was a
700.
two-bedroom, 690 square feet? I think it was a
Yeah,
two-bedroom.
650.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
But again, this, as we move along with
the building department will give them, we have to provide them a chart and plans for the
Right.
square footages. And I know that.
One correction, that bay window structure that you see off of the old existing house is going to be gray metal clad. So you see it as gray metal in one photo, one rendering in the other, it looks like it's brick. The correct one
You're
is gray
talking
metal.
about, is it this part of the
This piece
structure?
right here.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So that is, what is that again, gray? Clad, right? Or is- Oh, it's in brick on this drawing, and metal on that one.
Okay, we're kind of doing both, I mean, we're doing site plan and VR, I don't know if you want to start.
You want to split it, you want to
Let's
stick with site?
Let's stick with site plan, then we can kind of piggyback onto VR after that, because that way if Joe has any other issues with engineering.
Okay.
Well, we haven't received much in the way of engineering, you know, the plans have been primarily architectural in nature, so you have our November memo
Yes.
that, you know, there's quite a bit in here to be addressed yet. So, I don't know where you're at with that, or when you
Well,
plan
this is where-
on addressing any of that. But
Well, we did-
stormwater, you know, grading, retaining walls, driveway profiles are some of the bigger ticket items that I think need to be dealt with a little bit and at least get an understanding of it.
When it comes to the engineering, that's what we, as we were discussing before, we wanted to, there's a lot of it, we had to do some soil bearing, and soil testing, especially for the stormwater. We did it, you know, explore about using a storm trap, all the systems. But all of that is just, you know, just a substantial engineering that we're gonna incur, and we're trying to make sure that we are in the right direction and we have
I think there's been a favorable response, I think we just want to tighten, you know, we want to kind of tighten or close the loop on some of these things, you know, so the engineering is a, you know, an integral part of this. You guys have retained
Yes,
engineer?
we do have, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, even preliminarily, you know, we're not looking for every little detail, but I think kind of broad brush, some preliminary idea of what you're gonna do for stormwater management. You know, whether you even have the soils to do anything there, or how you're gonna manage it. Driveway profiles, as I mentioned, dimensioning of drive aisles, the discussion with the fire department, make sure that they're okay with your proposed fire and emergency access. You know, they may not, and then your plan changes. I think you'd wanna know those kind of threshold issues up front, so you know if you need to change direction or not. They may be fine with it, but we don't know yet. The ADA parking in the street, I don't know if that's going to be permitted, there's no access aisles. The street is steep, it's too steep for ADA, for a parking space. You know, the grade on that street won't meet ADA requirement for a parking stall, so I don't know, you know, that alone might just.
So I guess some of the discuss, I mean, you weren't here for the last meeting, Brian has been sort of shepherding this the last couple of months, but I think Jeff, this came out last month, you know, about the possibility of doing some of this off-street parking, and I think the village manager has the final say on if she can designate those spots as handicap. But you bring up a good point, can the village manager override the ADA requirement?
No.
So, yeah, that's
Simple
what
answer.
the answer was.
But designated as a parking space and allowing it to count towards their required parking
Right.
is one thing, but I'd be surprised if the manager wanted to say, ADA, we'll give it to you anyway.
So why can't we put ADA in the back,
Right.
like a handicap spot in the backside?
Well, there'd still be a steep driveway to go down in a wheelchair in that instance as well.
We've got this
You would have to
15
put
Well, you
like
need
a
a-
elevator
you'd
apparatus.
end up with an
there,
elevator in
street
the
level,
building.
right? You see that at some restaurants, they have like an electronic elevator. It's
Or a
just like
lift.
added
Yeah,
on.
that's
I
why it's to be a
thought- I
lift.
thought there was
Yeah.
an elevator, because I see, you know,
Yeah, I didn't
umbrellas on the
realize
second
that the
floor.
street was, I thought we had solved the ADA issue, so if you're saying
Yeah,
it's
no,
just,
parking space.
I don't think the village manager can
2%.
override ADA, I don't even think
No.
that's within her purview.
So that's why I'm saying these are some of the kind of the threshold things you're gonna wanna know one way or the other, because if something as simple as not being able to have ADA parking in the street means it goes in the back, now you
Figure out how to
need
get
a
it in the
lift
back.
in the building to get them upstairs.
Right,
So,
right.
There's definitely mechanisms you could do in the backside.
No, no, sure, sure.
And it affects your parking count, because then you need an access aisle, you know, so it kind of, they're little dominoes that,
for the next step, maybe we can have our engineer have a meeting with,
Sure.
kind of figure out a threshold that we can, so we don't have to do a full-blown engineering.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think it's too early to go, full bore and design everything, but I think, like I said, there's some minimal threshold items that you should be comfortable with and the board should understand, so that they can comfortably move this forward to the village board and
I think
zoning,
once the
regular
engineer,
variances.
right, once, the engineers have sort of, exchanged drawings and details, when there's sort of, we're getting the sense that it's moving in the right direction, and at least from the first hurdle, the engineering is sort of in place, we can, obviously get details done at a later date, but, I think we really can do site plan until we have, like Joe said, some of these details worked out.
Okay, so we'll have, but it's gonna be Paul right there.
Sure, yeah, so whenever
So
you have
we-
something
we'll
ready,
have
you
a
want to.
preliminary site, those issues addressed from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm assuming the board's okay with that, but yeah, that's fine with us.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'll open up the public, I guess, because we're gonna also do architecture, but I'll open up, if anybody cares to speak to the site plan aspects of, this application, please come up and, just mention your name and address. Okay, with that, I'll assume there's no questions, so we'll just jump right into architecture then. We're seeing this.
What we have
rendering.
is one, as you guys are familiar, this is one building, we have divided it in different finishes, and the finishes, and we have here the different colors that, these are the different plethora of colors that Hardy Plank, we're trying to do this with Hardy Plank. So these are the colors that you see, the combination. So you have the blue, the dark brown, and the gray.
The dark brown is the,
The reddish
is this?
Yeah, like that kind of color.
So there'll be 1, 2, 3, that'll be like the,
Yeah.
okay.
Jamie, there's only one brick building in the existing
Yes.
structure, right? So this, like, middle one's not brick?
No.
Okay.
Maybe, I'm sorry, did I see those in front of you?
So I'm looking at your proposed materials, it's sheet A, so
This is-
these coincide with what you've got on sheet 8, right?
Which one
The
is
blue.
And this one is that?
The one, the only change is the one that's the red, the blue.
This one?
Yeah.
So what's the plan for lighting going down, like?
There's, there,
Yeah, on the front facade.
I just see one lantern.
there's gonna be, we can show you the line, there's gonna be lighting
Okay.
underneath there, there's this lower area.
Would this proposed sign be lit? Or would that be illuminated in some way, or?
I wouldn't.
So the Riverview
I don't think
restaurant-
an illuminated sign would be consistent with what we're trying to do, which is sort of match the village center. I don't believe that's allowable in the village center, and I wouldn't want to do it here.
Yeah, you don't want to put a light box there.
The door on the existing brick building,
That's gonna remain as the.
okay, but
We
you,
finished the same one, yeah.
the one thing is that you're showing like a more modern door and.
No, it's just the rendering, it's gonna
Okay.
be the same type of door.
Okay, so it matches like
Yeah,
the windows,
yes, this, we're trying to.
similar to what.
Talking about this right here, right, Joe?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're gonna wanna see what will get installed.
I guess the door that's there doesn't match already. The door that's existing.
Well, it's gonna be refinished, and you have
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same,
yeah.
it's gonna be the same.
No, I know, just,
So is that the main entrance to the restaurant where the 65 is?
We have there's another entrance in there underneath the canopy, there's two entrances.
In the back?
No, both on the.
Oh, you mean the,
Off Main Street.
Yeah,
under the, oh, you mean,
and there's, if you look at the plan, there's also an entrance to the apartment.
So there's going to be sort of two areas of the restaurant, because the old house is going to be sort of cozy bar kind of an area, where that's one entrance, and another entrance we're going into sort of the main part of the restaurant is the
Oh, I
idea
see,
there.
yeah.
But that'll all be one level,
It'll all be one
Yes.
level, yeah.
Mhm.
on grade, accessible.
Yes.
So then the stairs on the right of this elevation are gonna be for the apartments?
Yes.
There is a set of stairs in the blue portion of the building. There is two other set of stairs for the apartment, and there is a side stairs, side entrance as well.
I mean, just to be devil's advocate, is somebody gonna be confused when they look at this and try to figure out where the restaurant is? I mean, I'm just curious.
Well, we have you have the main entrance, and then you also have the sign right on the, there's gonna be one
No,
sidewalk.
because you're coming off the sidewalk and around, the fence is gonna be there. So as you're coming in there, there's no other.
As-
Everything behind the fence is the restaurant. There's no residential entrance there, so if you're behind the fence, you're in the right
The-
place.
Right, and that's on, it's all
No,
on the
no,
same.
then
There
There
is, there is one, there is a
There's one
residential entrance.
Oh,
but
in the
it'll
blue,
be-
on the
Yeah.
one
It's
that's
gotta be this
okay.
here, I guess that's a window.
If you see, I think there's a A1, you see, there you see the two entrances.
Yeah.
So it's-
But the one residential entrance is gonna be a locked door going up to apartments. I mean,
There you go, you see on the top, there are two doors.
Oh, so it's actually gonna be like between the two restaurant entrances is gonna be
Yes,
the.
it's right in the, tucked in the corner of the building.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think that's confusing because the only person who's gonna use that door is the person who lives there. So
The
resident.
anyone else is gonna find the rest.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the buildings on Main Street, like there's
Yeah.
a door to the side.
Yeah.
You know, you look in and see mailboxes, just realize that that's the
What's gonna
resident.
be the use of the little bump out that's gonna have the louvered metal on it? What's gonna be the use of this bump
It's
out
part,
here?
in the main floor is part of the restaurant, downstairs is where we keep the refuge,
Okay.
the garbage.
Might be a good spot for an elevator. Goes into a flat area. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. Looks like it'd be perfect.
Actually, in order to get to the
We'll play
elevator,
one
then
on
you
TV.
have to go up the
Yeah,
hill.
that's about the hill, yeah.
Anybody else, questions? Yes?
Everyone's okay, like, in terms of the colors, materials.
Materials.
I mean, I'm pretty.
I'm fine.
I'm
yeah.
fine with materials and color.
I mean, I just think there might be an opportunity with, maybe some indirect lighting or something. I'm not proposing a box lamp or
for the-
the signs, but maybe there's some
Indirect lighting on the
indirect
stairs.
lighting to enhance, the streetscape and, kind of call attention to, this nice
Just a
improvement
second.
that's gonna happen.
Okay.
Just a thought. you
Yeah.
know. Mechanical equipment, all within the building, nothing's gonna be on the roof, or,
We don't plan, right now, we don't have any plan to do
I
that.
know
We sold them.
sometimes with the food establishment, we're gonna see an exhaust chimney and fan and all that kind of thing, and the metal pipe sticking up. Is that gonna be encased or boxed out?
Just
or-
in case, because, yes,
In any case, I mean, there will be HVAC equipment up on the roof, but this, we'd be doing mini splits, like Fujitsu splits or something.
There'll be definitely an
It's
exhaust for
really
the,
quite minimal.
the cooking for the kitchen is definitely gonna be pumped up over the.
It'll be
roof line,
exhausted
yeah.
up the back, yeah.
yeah.
On the backside.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's kinda like that same issue that JB, remember when Camp Woods Road, we sort of had that same issue with the chimney, so I don't know if you guys have given any thought to that yet, but just, if there is,
We can show.
just show it on the
we can
rendering.
show, yeah.
show it,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
if there's an architectural treatment that's sort of
Screening.
a good way to deal with that, we'd like to see that. Just thinking ahead, so
Yeah,
there's
good
no
point.
last
Would
minute.
that be located, I don't know exactly where the kitchen is gonna be, but in the sort of like newer,
It will be
Structure.
closer to the older part of the building, to the existing part of the building.
okay, closer, but it wouldn't be a projection out of
Right,
the old,
no.
okay.
Yeah, that's gonna get that's fine. No, I mean, like, with the mechanical stuff, I mean, maybe the residential side will be direct vent, so you might not see chimneys if it's heated, but, typically with the kitchen and the commercial restaurant end of it, you're gonna probably see some ventilation and some
Yeah,
of that stuff.
Well, my thought is.
Yeah, we don't have any gas because of the moratorium, so we're gonna be limited to those splits on the wall, basically. It's
But
probably-
that could change. I mean, if it does change, you would probably like to have gas, right? I mean,
Yeah, I just, at this point, there's no end in sight from anybody's guess. I mean, I'd love to know. I think a lot of people would love to know where that's gonna go. We're just at this point not planning for it.
Okay.
because
You're gonna do propane then for the kitchen, you know? Restaurant space?
we probably will have some propane just for some gas cooking, but it'll be, a lot of it will be electric.
Okay. No one's here to speak to the application, so I would ask for a motion to extend the approved site plan for an additional 1-year term, I guess, to end 12/31/20.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll move.
Got a second?
I'll second.
Bobby, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, motion carried.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, so next and final application for the year, I guess, is 49 Spring Street, JB again. So you get to close up 2019, JB.
Wow. Am I gonna get to start 2020?
Yep. You get, right, you're first in line.
If I had a guess,
You can wait here December 31st.
That's true, we miss it. So this going back, this is, the only part that has changed is the bottom.
Could we just go back to, I think, where we left off in the work session, which is that,
the sconces are doing.
well, I mean, the sconces, and
sconces
there's
gonna be-
also the detail there.
Because we're cutting the building, so
So you have, you look at the plan, if you look at the plan, you have, so we do have this concept at an angle. I mean, we can
Yeah,
add
I mean, I'm
another.
just saying because like the building has a very, boxed appearance. And I
Yes.
think that one of the, we got into the detail to kind of change that up a little bit. And now, I just think it's a little bit odd that the one front right corner, which is symmetrical to the left, is going to be
Shaved off.
45-degree angle. I mean, I don't know.
Do we have a full-on cut of what that is gonna look like? I know it wouldn't represent the angle, or you wouldn't get the geometry, but at least you would see.
That's what you will see. And
I mean, it's almost to me like it shouldn't be trying to be symmetrical if
I don't.
the dimensions are not.
is that what you're thinking?
In other words, like symmetry with the sconces and the
We can-
the
I
other
mean-
details there. I mean,
am I stretching to say you're not gonna be breaking ground next week on this?
No, but we
You could
really
laugh.
wanted, no, we really wanted to, yeah, I can't tell my God, but, as long as we can move forward with the building department, we work on the construction documents, I mean, we can revisit that. I can see where we can add another sconsa, so, on the front, so to kind of,
or you'll add another one, so you would have a one.
from the front, you
Yeah.
will have, I have,
Maybe-
that's the,
Yeah, like maybe
Listen,
that works.
I
but-
really
Help
would
to
like
almost
to,
notch that corner out instead of an angle, and just have it, so when you're looking at it, it's just set
well,
right.
we will.
I know it takes away from the inside a little bit from the.
No, we really wanted to have that, that was the original design.
No, instead of a corner, coming out this way, just have it step, take that angle and
Create a
just.
step.
and just move it
But what you
back.
can do is,
And then you can do that on the other
on
side.
the other side.
Right, so you don't really have that angle feel, it's sort of back and
Just
to
I
the
take
think- I
90
think
degree.
corners and just set them back.
Yeah, it says the corner.
I wouldn't change the left side if you're looking at the front elevation, because,
It's
I
closer
think
to the
Joe's
other
talking
building.
about the right side, I think.
yeah, you weren't, were you
Yeah.
suggesting changing the left side also, or no?
To make it
Oh,
look
symmetrical.
symmetrical. That's what
I don't know if I would go that way, because I like the streetscape with like the buildings right on the sidewalk. It's creating like a corridor for,
We can try 90, I mean, I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean, just,
Yeah.
just notch it out.
Instead of a
so
notch,
chamfer
it'd be a
it.
recess.
I
So
mean,
as
even
long-
if you wanna show it to us like a couple different ways or something.
I was just gonna say, maybe a couple alternate.
Yeah.
At least
I
the
mean,
sconces would be square to the
Yeah.
street that way,
I mean, typically, we've approved this project, so it's sort of like if it's a change that's less than X percent, I don't know if that's 5% or 8% or whatever the square footage is. I mean, it's deemed as, I think, a minor,
Yeah,
but
I
we
can
wanna
bring
make
it,
sure
I can bring it
architecturally
to,
it feels
And
it looks the way we want.
next year I
We
can
think
bring
should
it to
look.
you in the work section.
The other thing is, I don't know if the way the sidewalk runs, and I don't know if this would look strange to put a sconce on the right elevation, so you kind of get one to the front, one to the right, and then.
Remember, that's-
Well,
I don't
that
know.
will be
that's
looking
an indent
towards the
with a
bus
plus-
stop.
plus sign.
Okay.
But it's also, right now, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if the plan is different from this elevation, because it looks like on the plan, you've got, like 18 inches, 24 inches of brick before you get to the chamfer. On the drawing, your door goes right up against the chamfer.
That was the,
You've got a little bit
one?
of breadth,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the new one, so
Yeah.
there's something that's kind of disconnected between them. You're going right from the door to that bend. It'd be good to see just the elevation of what that chamfer looks like, because that's gonna read as its own facade. It's not gonna read as this drawing does, as a continuation of that.
Yeah.
right, it's missing a line, yeah.
Yeah.
Seth earned his pay already tonight.
All right, so then, everything else you're fine with, that I can move ahead.
Yeah, just a
We
couple
should bring a
alternates.
couple alternates
Yeah.
for that corner.
Yeah.
Fine with
Thanks.
that.
So we'll hold that one till next month.
Right, so, yeah,
That's
that'll
fine.
get adjourned, that'll be on the agenda for next one.
Yeah, I'll have Jamie put that on.
Agenda, okay. Old business, new business, couple of minutes, we'll do. Yeah,
Yeah, the minutes, yeah, and you have the one resolution, which is for Baker Road.
okay, great. All right, that's it, we're adjourned. Thanks, guys.